the Frost Place. Welcome to the third evening of readings of the 2024 Poetry Seminar on Zoom. These readings are streamed live on the Frost Place Facebook page and archived there for viewing later. If you're looking for an online summer poetry conference where your work will get the focused attention of some of America's finest poet teachers, please check out the poetry seminar at frostplace.org. We'd love to have you join us next year. Our readers tonight will be Saúl Hernández and me. Saúl Hernández was a finalist in our 2024 Poet in Residence competition, nominated by Patricia Smith. That Patricia respects Saúl's work this much tells you everything that you need to know. And after that, I will read. This is my 13th year as director of the Poetry Seminar and my first year as program director of the Frost Place. Please welcome Saúl Hernández.
Hi, everyone. Very excited to be here. I'll be reading a couple poems for y'all tonight for my debut poetry collection, How to Kill a Goat and Other Monsters, which was a finalist for the Wisconsin Poetry Series. It just launched this March, and I'm just so excited to all the places it's taken me so far, and hopefully to all the places it will continue to take me. I'm going to read about 7 poems from the collection, and then I'm going to read 2 new poems tonight. So you will be the second ears to hear these new poems. I am going to start off with the poem that introduces my whole collection, which is titled In Another Life. My parents immigrated from Mexico, and I've since then wondered, what would my life have been if I would have been born in their hometown, which is a population of less than like 800 people, unpaved roads, just really out there. In another life, my parents never left Mexico. I never learned to open my mouth. Gnats circle me in the milpa. My sandpaper hands pull another tomato off a vine. I raise the tomato up to the sky, crush it, let the juice run down my hand. How easy is it to be ripe and not ready? I'm in love with a woman from the next town over. On the weekdays, I make love to men who look at me with hunger. Their knuckles pop against my back when they squeeze me. Mosquitoes bite us in the fields, reminds us how our blood rises the most with themes you cannot have. The day I marry her in the only church in town, I wait for her at the altar with the head of my lover as a gesture of my loyalty. I pluck out his teeth, petals I blow to her and tell her, ¿Quién te quiere un chingo? On our first night together, she cuts my tongue out, makes guisado out of it. You don't need to be kissing me, she tells me. When she eats my tongue, she tastes all the men I had before her. This guisado is too salty. She adds honey, serves me a plate, and peels my tongue apart with a fork. After dinner, she flosses my teeth with a strand of her hair. The next day, when I open my mouth to kiss a man in the fields, flies buzz out of me. The man steps back. Con esa boca, nadie te va a querer. I put my head down, pull tomatoes off vines, collect them in my bag like the lovers I'll have in either lifetime. My book deals a lot with generational grief and in general, just witnessing my family grieve people that I've never met, but also how their lives kind of continue to be tragic in the US. And this next poem is titled Amasi's Fireflies. Amasi's Fireflies. She stands outside, watches the roof of the house incinerate like newspaper caught on fire. Copper chloride's flares flash, bloom into a blaze. I watch behind her. The red shimmers remind me of Abuelo, how he lit a cigarette, how flames touched the tip, how he inhaled smoke, let out fire. Isn't it beautiful? She says. The firestorm brews, and she laughs at the sound of sirens. The roof of our house collapses, sparks flutter into the air. She laughs harder, speckles of ash fall on us. She twirls spirals of fire. People watch her. Ama, the fireworks show. She keeps on repeating, Ya soy libre, ya soy libre, ya soy libre, papá, libre. She turns, grabs my hands, tells me, dance with me. We spin in circles. Our burning house blurs into a field of hibiscus flowers. Ama lets go of my hands. I catch my balance. Flakes of debris come down. She tells me to make a wish on one of the fireflies. I close my eyes. Ama sings the song she played in the house the day her father died. Y volver, volver a tus brazos otra vez. The smell of soot and sway of fumes reminds me of him. This next poem I'm reading is titled Dear Ivan, which is a grief poem. Dear Ivan, I forgot you yesterday, so I sped to the cemetery to say, I'm sorry. I didn't sleep last night again in fear of forgetting your dimples. My therapist asked me, how are you dealing? Fine. The truth is, I'm not eating again. I only chew the syllables of your name at 2:45 a.m., the time of your death. People say depression looks good on me, as in to say I look fine. I once met a man in South Korea. He was fine. Snowflakes gathered on his eyelash when we walked through Seoul. I thought I saw you at the gas station a week after your death. He had a face. I swear, Ivan, didn't you say you wouldn't die on me? At night, when it's dark in my room, I Google, are the dead fine? I can hear your brother's voice say, he's gone. Sometimes I get so high, I think about not coming down. Then I think of the last joint we smoked together at 22, how you bloated, belly big, in smoke, and exhaled, how the whole room filled with clouds and laughter, how you turned to look at me and said, get up and fly high. Your brother texted me last night. How are you doing? I said, I'm fine. I didn't have the heart to tell him to stop texting me. My therapist says people look for comfort in others because love is a way of haunting. I look for comfort in other men who can hold me like you did. A man once asked me to kiss him with his eyes open. He said, my ex-boyfriend used to kiss me like this. It's been 8 years now, and every time I wear your t-shirt to sleep, I dream in the only tongue I know I'll find you in the language of grief. And I'm going to read another grief poem, shocker. This next one's titled Meditation on Grief. Sorry, I'm scrolling through my laptop. Give me once. There we go. Meditation on grief. My therapist said grief is like filling a balloon with water until it gets so heavy it bursts. I think of Apa, how when he arrived to the States, he drank so much beer you could smell his brother's suffocation on him. How he still sits outside, searches the night sky for his brother's face. He was never taught to mourn. Instead, he carries grief inside like me. When it rains, he takes cover so he won't fill up and burst like my Thea. When she lost her husband, we would carry her like water in our arms, lay her in the bathtub, run cold rivers all over her body until it would enter her skin like knives, and she'd yell, Mario! My therapist says grief comes at different stages in our lives. I tell her some days I wake up to Ama's voice ringing in my ear. I can't go to Mexico. How Ama sent me to bury her father when she couldn't go. How my brother and I carried my abuelo's casket around the town, our bodies on the verge of collapsing from all the weight. My therapist asks, how does that make you feel? I tell her, it reminds me of a reoccurring dream. Apa and I stuck in a flash flood while driving. She says grief can manifest in dreams. In mine, water leaks through the thin cracks of our car door. Apa looks at me, no tengas miedo. The doors won't open. Neither of us can break the windshield, and we laugh until water goes inside of us. There's a running theme in my collection about water in the Rio Grande. And actually, it was Patricia Smith who told me I should, or actually encouraged me that I should write a persona poem and personify the Rio Grande and have it speak at some point in my collection. And I really love that because, you know, she did write Blood Dazzler, which if you haven't read it by Patricia Smith, you should pick it up. So this is the Rio Grande Speaks. Everyone claims to know my waters. I've been known as a force of nature. Sometimes I'm all muscle, no grace. Many have crossed me, and I've crossed many. I answer to no one, not even to myself. Sometimes I'm all grace, no muscle. You've seen my body, rough but never smooth. I do have memory and I do remember. They call me El Rio Grande, El Rio Bravo, Big River, La Frontera. Everybody wants to give me a name, but no one wants to know me. For years, I've pulled bodies into the pit of my belly, and the body is always hungry. Truth is, I answer to no one, not even to myself. I wish you could feel the weight of my body. I'm tired of having a body I can't control. This next poem is titled, This Is How I Fight. This is how I fight. I learned how to kiss a man easy when he held a gun to my neck. I pulled a thread off my shirt and watched the end become a beginning. At school, I was taught how to hide from a storm, never how to stop one. When I was a child, I collected fireflies every night. For years, I ate them, hoping one day my insides could hold light. My therapist asked me today, have you forgiven? To survive sometimes means to incinerate history. Like when Abuelo died, Abuela gathered every single photo from her home, cast all the pictures in a metallic tambo, and set it on fire. A man once forbade me to leave the hotel room. You can't go. I've wondered more than once how lonely you have to feel to become violent. All through the night, he cried, why am I not enough? And I bandaged him with my body. Afterwards, I let water run over me. All I heard was static until I screamed. I still don't know what hunger is capable of doing. I keep having a dream of waking up naked in my abuelo's Mexican fields. Lightning has struck everything around me. A fire is sprouting. I am going to read, I think I still have time, right? Yes. I'm going to read two last poems. These are very new poems, and they actually just got picked up by the American Poetry Review, so I'm very excited about that. This first one's titled A Backlog on Beauty. In high school, my art teacher made me look at my reflection, gave me 30 minutes to find beauty. I've never been able to look at myself in the mirror again. I spent 5 summers looking at Texas skies, how each year clouds outlive beauty. An old lover this weekend wrapped his legs around my torso, my fingers in his mouth. He kissed my chest. Look at me, babe. Once I danced next to him. Our bodies became waves, pulling each other into our mouths. I wish I could believe the words Madame Almasari wrote. Every time a man leaves me, my beauty increases, increases. A man once told Ama I would grow up to be a beautiful boy. She corrected him, handsome. I watched novelas growing up. I always paid more attention to the men and their muscular bodies. At church, I would pray to grow into a body like that. I told my therapist I slept with 3 men in the same day. I wanted to make sure they knew I'm beautiful. I've been covering mirrors most of my life, afraid to look at my reflection, knowing everything beautiful will die one day. In elementary, I remember my class read Rainbow Fish. I didn't know beauty could be given away. And this last poem is titled A Note on Solitude. In a bluebonnet field in Texas, I listen to the wind shuffle through the labyrinth of stems. Everything is too blue for me. I catch grasshoppers, put them in a jar. They sing to me, are you lonely? For the longest time, I've wanted to be alone. Friday nights are the loneliest. I'm afraid to admit time is killing me. Sometimes I'm so far away, I forget silence is another form of living. When a winter storm hit Texas, the bluebonnet field sounded like glass, every stem coming undone. The field was quiet then. Spring. Forgive me, for I am reminded of what can revive. My parents taught me Solitude is another form of survival. That's why grasshoppers keep to themselves. In Mexico, I've seen swarms of grasshoppers devour abuelo's milpa. I've seen what solitude's hunger is capable of. I keep waiting for beauty to blossom from solitude like a burst of indigo in spring. Before bed, I listen to the grasshoppers. I catch vibrations of their canto echo like a llanto through my body, reminding me how lonely the field must be without them.
From everydayhealth.com.
Thank you. Sorry,
Because
I don't know why my
self-connecting is
Alexa
one of the
connected.
basics of well-being.
Not to worry, Saul, that was amazing and beautiful. Thank you so much. I
Thank you
hope
so
it's
much. Thank you. Sorry, I was waiting for it to turn off. Thank you for having me. I'm very grateful and appreciative, and I'm excited to hear your poems next, Patrick.
Oh, thank you. Please stick around. I think people will want to ask you some questions afterward. I'm so grateful to each of you for your generosity and care for each other during the seminar. I'll take my director hat off now and put on my poet hat. I'll have a new book in March 2025 from Four Way Books. It's called Willowhammer, and we have a cover design. But tonight, I'm going to read some poems that may go into the next book after Willowhammer. The first poem purports to be about a geologic phenomenon, but stick with me. Illgraben debris flow, canton of Valais, Switzerland. The mountain can't heal now. What sheared off left a slant too steep for chamois scat or larch seedling to catch. Everything scoured bare by rain and rain again, as if rain were carbolic. The literature says torrents with check dams may be more prone to memory effects. Translation, any effort to make things better makes them worse. These days, AI surveils the mountain. Every thunderhead triggers a klaxon in the valley, from Greek, I shriek. A light like a migraine turns on a pole, and the Rhone braces against a new dump of cement nobody ordered. Here are some 6-ton boulders lifted as though they were eider feathers in 20 waves, chased by a slim stream of milt through the stony bed. How long has this been going on? The therapist asked. 700 years. The 14th century was a hard time for me. Again today, there's rain on the mountain. Dramatic, unstable, misunderstood. Oh, love, here I come. I've been thinking a lot about teachers and teacher-student relationships. There's a Latin phrase in the next poem, fons et origo. It means source and origin. For teachers. Paige Swift taught me singing. Sheikh Dean, the 5 times daily prayer. Wolf Lowenthal, the young style. And one other, fons et origo, primal. Every thread leading back from today to what I received, poured over me, into me, given to me while others paid, sometimes with the delight and sadly pride of having been called to a true path, sometimes burning me, caustic, me leaving in apprentice tears, sometimes misnaming, but nevertheless locating a fault, forcing me to strain against temperament, against my own nature, refusing to do for me what I must do for myself, even after I acquired some mastery with the flavors of up, down, charm, strange, top, bottom, etc., with every encounter jerking me back to a beginning of not knowing, and always private, guarded, spiny, never touching, shaming any hint of gossip, which I only repeated because I pined to belong to, such that even after decades, I don't dare write the name, what I studied, or even reveal his gender. Oh, hell. Mountains and hills fall on me. Thistle and thorn bewilder my tracks. Spring from the clay acacia in front of the cave where I go to ground. Spider, pity me and spin a veil across. Emergency, emergency, hide me from my mouth, my own bad mouth, which from remote ages before I was born into this world, I had been warned about. Genealogy. Page Swift, handsome and cold, who taught me singing, had studied with jazzy, boozy Eileen Farrell at Bloomington. So I thought of Miss Farrell as my opera grandmother and was shy around her. Page and Marilyn Horne had come up as mezzos together in California in the 50s. So Horne was Miss Swift's more famous sister and thus my aunt. Oberlin, 79, serving Horne a tunnied veal I'd cook, her mammoth black glamour flung over the bed. I was so timid that she said to Page, "These kids don't know how heavy their adoration is to carry," not intending me to hear, or maybe she did. When I sang in the chorus of Bohème, Detroit, 75, one of the Alden brothers said about my height, "Oh my God, you're grotesque," moving me to the Latin Quarter's remotest edge, behind even the marching band. About my blonde hair, "Spray it brown, you're pulling focus." About my 74 audition to apprentice at Santa Fe, my high school choir mistress at the piano, Richard Gaddis said only, "I can tell you want this very much." At Aspen in 79, I sang under Roman Terlecki, who had been Franco Zeffirelli's assistant in Dallas, 58, Maria Callas, Traviata. Roman said the sum total of Zeffirelli's direction to Callas had been to say, "Come in this door, go out that one." About my own talent, Roman, flicking ash off his galloise, said, "Find another art, go out that door, and don't come back." Certain men of small towns in the west of Virginia have heard through some trembling of their web of acquaintance that I am here, and from the academical villages where they teach English, French, piano, and design, from small museums called jewel-like by the locals, where they docent and curate, have come to hear me read some poems. They served in the army, never married, lived close to their mothers or with them. One drove 50 miles over the mountains across the James and past the stink of the paper mill. One seemed terrified when I began, but afterward shouted an invitation to visit his carriage house and Was I maybe interested in antique cars? One left a number in my box, offering a drink called the Famous, 11 parts dry vermouth to 1 part sweet. They dilated on the photos of handsome sailors on their mantels and pianos, played Stieber and Farrier at me, and drank perhaps too deeply. I had a job there, but now I can steal away. Their lilacs full of incense in February, notwithstanding, their pears full of bees. Back to the Greek granges of the north, meeting houses plain on the commons, away from their plantation pillars and the burden, not of all they needed to receive, but of the hidden, shamed, choked back love they longed to give. We've been talking a fair amount in my workshop this week about Japanese forms, and especially the haibun. We've had several come up in workshop, and I love the form. I like the contrast between the block of prose and the haiku at the end. And it really frees you up to do a lot of different kinds of things. This is a haibun. On the cover of TV World, December 1954, 25 cents, Liberace tells what I want in a woman. The old parents of my gay Japanese friend in Kyoto set him up on omiai, matchmaking dates with women. Isao dutifully attended these formal lunches into his 50s, though he'd owned a house with his American boyfriend for over 25 years. His parents even knew and liked roommate Larry-san. As a white-gloved senior docent at the Music Box and Automata Museum in Arashiyama, Isao had only 1 day off every 2 weeks, but he spent some of them attending these honorable look meets because of honne tatemai, the difference between what one thinks and what one says. At least one of the women was queer herself, and Isao gave her a t-shirt he'd painted with a flower called Under the Snow. They kept in touch. The parents died and the lunches ended. Every day, Isao feeds paper into a slot, so a small audience of tourists can watch the writer boy automaton perform. Elegant in his gestures, the brass discs that drive him have hills and valleys, which a mechanical follower translates into movements that go out to the drawing hand. His repertoire includes poems in Japanese and English, and 4 intricate drawings, one of an old-fashioned clipper ship under full sail. Now Larry is sick. Isao peels ginger under Thunder Mountain. I've been writing poems with 4 in the title. There were a bunch in my forthcoming book, and I seem to keep writing them. I don't know what the significance is of 4, but 4 smells. Stream of tomcat down the basement pane, recharged with each spring rain. Yellow breath of the bathhouse 30 years past, when first I came in from the frost. Wet dirt and tobacco, the scent of his loads. Lilies that fester smell far worse than weeds. While making love, the smell of shit, dragging the singing kite to earth. You think up's the only legit route into some sky mind? No. Below right and wrong is how the nose goes. Gateless gate, under even the tongueless root. If you worked with me or read my poems, you know I'm all about narrative, story, my own, other people's, people who weren't given a chance to tell their stories or imagine stories. But I'm also always looking for different ways to make a poem. We've been talking this week about poems that put music in the forefront with narrative there, but just hinted at. And this was my try at something like that. It's another haibun, and all the vocabulary in the poem is from the book in the title. Natural History of Vacant Lots, Bessel and Wong, 1987. Melodic Etude. And litter and peas and fruits and finally and then. Blacktopped, blanched, bulldozed, burned, cemented, disturbed, fallen, trodden, rust, exhaust, sow bug, eyesore, and lifting up and delicately and throws itself spinning. Edges of cemeteries, waste areas, military, mowing, spraying, trampling, dumping, cans, boxes, boards, shabby, dusty, foreign, alien, colonized, capitalized, scurry, burrow, and garbage and starlings. And on their own sexual and asexual and wetness, cracks in walks, foothold, knotweed, thistle, mustard, fibrous nodes, clump, prostrate, nocturnal, vessel, shelter, nesting, niche. Copyright Berkeley, Los Angeles, London, abandoned. Scavenging, ladybird beetle, fillery, lack. Man especially confused. Index, producer, consumer, long, hot, so close. And cease their singing, ignored and mostly despised, pale tree of heaven. This is my last poem. On first looking into Bates' biography of Keats, Amy Clampett owned 7 copies of Keats. Invited to write in her house in Lenox, I did go, but refused to write. A tantrum about unstructured time, not like Keats on the Isle of Wight with his small portrait of Shakespeare, determined to finish 4,000 lines in 5 months. So I spent one whole day pulling all the Keatses from various shelves and arranging them by size. And after that, I organized the towels by color and separated the 2 different flatware patterns, which had become mixed. The whole time I thought of St. John's complaint to the Ephesians, you have abandoned the love you felt at first. Some of the 7 copies, a child's pocket version, no Fanny Braun, which no child ever pocketed. 1865 poetical works inscribed Peter Marcassiano, Bonne Année 1956. At lunch, Karen Chase told me Marcassiano painted the onions, still life in the living room. But who pressed the rose petal, now withered, between pages 182 and 183? Whose devotion does Poems Volume 2 represent? Letterpress on handmade paper, decal edges, and green ribbons for tying the covers closed. Clampett died in the room that's now the kitchen. her hospital bed placed there because it had the best view of the garden. And I was told her ashes repose under the little plum tree on the lawn, or else that round slate covers the water main shut off, as I was also told. Dead 2 years after her MacArthur, sweet fruit grafted with a bitter one. And because John Hennessy warned me that there was a ghost in the house, after I arrived, I printed out her photo, arranged a flower in front, lit a candle, said to her maybe unquiet spirit, "This is a great place to stay, but I'm still not going to write anything. Thank you very much." Before and after which there were no phenomena. I swept the driveway where a bear had scattered the bones of a chicken, delivered in one of those Blue Apron cook-it-yourself gourmet meal kits, 1 carrot, 2 mushrooms, 3 leaves of basil, that Dora Malik had ordered, but I ate. For the most part, I obeyed the instruction to not leave the house with the dryer running. I also did not sublet the house and return to my home, pocketing both the honorarium and the rent, as James Arthur told me one previous fellow did. I studied their faces online to guess who might have done this, curious what raving entitlement looked like, but maybe she was disappeared from the record. Damnatio memoriae, they call that, chiseling the faces off the statues and replacing them with other faces. Later, I forgot to mention the possible ghost to incoming Tyree Day. And when he and Delissa had been in the house a week, he emailed me to ask if anything strange happened while I was there, such as whispering in the bedroom under the eaves, audible but incomprehensible. I wondered if offerings could be retroactive, if he still might make one. It was early, but figured each person must decide their own posture toward the dead. Walter Jackson Bate made me love Keats and hate his enemies. And now on page 694, he is collapsing on the Spanish steps. In 2 days, Dr. Clark would write, the lungs were completely gone. Nobody can reach back. It's too late. With a prescription of isoniazid and rifampicin, as I myself had to swallow for a year, a person without immunity being exponentially more likely to progress to active TB every year after exposure. Everyone, my doctor said, who has lived in a large city for a year or more has been exposed to the bacillus. TB is a social disease. A year, a year, a year. What is a year? When more than half my time in this house and my body is already over. It seemed the limit of my capacity to leave my own books on the shelf in Clampett's office, where the other fellows had left theirs, and to order Keats's by size on another shelf all to themselves, reading one of his poems every day instead of writing my own. On the same day that the house and the luxury of my time in it still seemed stuck on empty, furnace gasping in the basement, snow rising to smother the sills, sensing my own lateness to a story that many already knew, I asked myself what could be the significance of the first time Keats died for me, just 4 pages and a little left, except that history made me wild with original love, my first love. And then for almost one whole day, I breathed the air of a new planet. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks to our wonderful readers, and tune in tomorrow evening when our participants will read their own poems. Thank you very much, and good night for now.